So I decided that today let us launch the office. First of all, let me say that this office is one of the most vibrant offices in Parliament. And I know that the previous office holders have been engaging you more robustly during the budget making process. But I think this is going to be the first engagement that I have with you. And first of all, let me ask you that we work together as an office. And secondly, to say that we have come to the, basically we are starting the budget process for 2025-2026. As you are aware, the estimates were presented to Parliament 2 weeks ago by the executive. And so the estimates are with us, and over the last 2 weeks, various departmental committees have been engaging with the government agencies so that they can be able to finalize the estimates before being presented to my committee. So from tomorrow, my committee will begin sitting and we'll be listening to departmental committees on their estimates that they want us to approve. So I would like to ask the members of the media to join us starting tomorrow as we begin to go through the figures. But let me first of all say that I am very happy to address you and to say that this is a responsibility that I'm very ready for. As you're aware, I've been in budget committee over the years since I joined Parliament in 2017. And so I'm very much conversant with the budget process. And so my commitment, as I've said before, is that we are going to have a different way of doing budget, where we are going to have a budget that addresses critical issues of the economy, issues that affect the ordinary lives of Kenyans. But more importantly, this budget process is going to ensure that we have equity in the budget making process. In the past, budget committee has been accused of running a sectarian budget or unfair budget. But my commitment to you is that as you will come before us, you will see that we are going to have a budget that is going to address all aspects, all Kenyan needs, all regions, all ethnic groups. And so that's the first commitment I wanted to give you. I also wanted to highlight to you some of the issues that are under discussion as we are going through the budget. One of the issues that you are aware is being discussed more is the fact that the economy continues to borrow. Each and every year the economy continues to borrow, and public debt has become a concern for many people, and especially lawmakers, policymakers. I wanted to share that budget and fiscal deficit are things that must go together. There is no budget, there is no economy that is running a budget that is 100% funded. Any economy, any household must be able to borrow for them to fund budgets. And therefore, I want to dissuade Kenyans that borrowing is going to be part and parcel of a budget making process. But something that I need to highlight is that over the years, especially in the previous regime engaged in one-ton borrowing, so that by the time this new regime came into office, we were talking about budget deficits of 8%, fiscal deficit of 8% to GDP. If you check your records properly, you realize that in 2021 financial year, 2022-23 financial year, we were handling a budget deficit of up to 8%. But since this new regime came into force, this deficit has been coming down substantially. And in this financial year, we are talking about a budget deficit of, fiscal deficit of 4.5%. So if you follow up, if you want to track that, that progress in fiscal deficit, you see that we have come down by about 4%. So I wanted to tell Kenyans that this is very progressive, extremely progressive, because it means that now we are trying to live within the boundaries of our means. We want to run an economy where we can basically fund most of our needs from our own resources. I think that is the reason why we are seeing the deficit substantially coming down. Then another issue that I wanted to address is the mismanagement of the economy. You are aware that the previous regime basically mismanaged this economy. One of the areas that this economy was mismanaged is the fact that a lot of money was borrowed, which was not used for development. From 2013 to 2022, we borrowed more than 8 trillion. But over the same period, amount of money that was spent on development was less than half of that, because every financial year we were spending about 500 billion towards development. If you do that in 10 years, you find that you will have spent only 5 trillion in development. But the amount of money borrowed was about 8 trillion. So that means there was mismanagement of the economy. The other issue that happened is that so many projects were started, especially in the road sector, and some of these projects could not be funded. In the end, when the new regime came into force, we were addressing projects. We were having projects that had stalled. Contractors had gone to court. They were suing the government for interest and for breach of contract. And so the road sector basically is one of the sectors that has stagnated since the new regime came into force. And when we were looking at the sectors that are going to support the growth of this economy, we identified construction as one of the sectors that will help us to grow the economy. But looking at the pending bills in that sector, we realized that the pending bills in that sector was choking, and therefore was affecting the growth of the economy and the construction performance of the construction sector. Therefore, the government decided in its wisdom to look for ways in which they were going to address this particular issue. And one of the ideas, which to me was masterstroke, wise counsel, and genius, the idea of securitization of a section of road maintenance levy fund, which I want us to talk about. That idea to me, as I said, was masterstroke. Because if we continue with the trajectory that we are going on, then we are going to accumulate more pending bills in the sector, road sector. We are going to have that sector stagnating, and that is one of the sectors that we are hoping to help us grow the economy. So the government was going to get to a stage where the government was going to stall. The economy was going to stall. So when this idea was mooted by this regime, most of us felt that this was one of the best ideas that was going to help us address those challenges. Unfortunately, some members of parliament, some opposition leaders think that this is one of the scandals that they are talking about. So I want to address this particularly and say that before this idea was brought, there was sufficient consultation. I want to take issue with my predecessor because my predecessor is saying that this is one of the scandals in the making. So I want to say that this idea was mooted when the former chairman of Budget Appropriations Committee, my brother Nyoro, was the chairman here. And he was one of the people who participated in conceiving this idea. He supported it. And as I believe today, and as he believed then, that this idea was going to help us resolve the challenges we have in the sector, as I've explained. And therefore, I take issue with him for recently proclaiming himself that this securitization of RLMF is also a scandal and is going to confer and increase the borrowing portions that this country economy is not able to manage. I want to say this for two reasons. One, I have looked at the performance of the resources that have been achieved from securitization of RMLF. And to date, as you're aware, because you are Kenyans, you know that contractors, most of them have gone back to the sites that they had abandoned over 1 year ago. Because we have done negotiations with the contractors, and some of them have agreed, actually most of them have agreed, first of all, to waive interest that they were charging on their balances. They did that, up to 40%. The other issue is that they have gone back and they have said that they're not going to stop work because we are hoping that as we raise more resources from RMF, this funds is going to be used to complete these projects. So I want to challenge my predecessor that you need to give us a better reason why you think this method of jump-starting this sector is unworkable. But from where I think, my view is that I think one of the reasons we are against this is because of the manner in which, the transparent manner in which this process is being done, and the fact that the resources that are being realized from securitization of RLMF is being spent equitably across the country. We have had a budget office where, as I've told you, budget is not shared equitably. You know, budget goes to one section of the country. I want to say that under my leadership, because I'm also presiding over the distribution of these resources, the RLMF resources are being shared equitably. All contractors across the country have gone back to their sites because everybody is receiving the resources that the resources are meant for Kenyan projects. So I wanted to challenge my brother Ndindi Nyoro that please, we beseech you to run away from tribal bigotry in sharing of natural resources. It cannot be about one tribe, it cannot be about one region. Allow the country to move on by embracing equitable sharing of public resources so that every part of this region can benefit, because this country belongs to all of us. I also want to add that in this financial year alone, we are going to spend about 1 trillion in interest payment for public debt. 1 trillion. 1 trillion. This is a substantial amount of money. It has never been spent before. Now, look at the amount of resources that we are going to, that would have been used to address the challenges we have in the education sector, in the health sector. Had Uhuru Kenyatta not mismanaged this economy, we would not be talking about 1 trillion being, payment in interest payment. So even when people, challenge us, when people challenge us and people challenge the government to show what they're doing with public resources, we want to challenge them, especially the people who are in government, the previous regime, that please, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should come and tell us, if you borrowed 10 trillion, what did you do with that 10 trillion? And because we are now collecting resources, which are supposed to spend the resources in development of the economy, in the health sector, Today alone, I've received about 600 SMSs from UHT staff that are asking me to provide resources for their confirmation. We cannot do this because we are spending all these resources in payment of interest on public debt. So I think these are the cracks of the matter in budgeting, in terms of budgeting for this financial year. And it is important for Kenya to know that this is this position where we are. We want people to criticize us positively, without tribal bigotry, without ethnicizing leadership. We want people to be broad, in the way you think about the country. And I think this is a challenge I wanted to give my brother Ndindi Nyoro. Please be broad in the way you think about the country. The fact that you are no longer the chairman of budget does not mean that you want to throw mud at everything that was done, even when you were here as the chairman, and you willingly put your signature on them. You supported them publicly, and you said these projects are good, these programs are good for the country. Therefore, members, this is really the message I wanted to give you, unless somebody has a question. Thank you for that question. We are addressing that. We are going to avail resources for completion of that facility. As a matter of fact, this morning I was having a meeting with the chairman of Defense and Foreign Relations Committee, and my committee is going to avail resources that is going to be used to progressively finish up that project. About State House innovation, I think this has been explained even by Treasury, by CS Treasury, that State House is an old house. Over the years, there's nothing that has been done. If you've been there, you realize that that place was filthy. I first went to State House in the last term when we were invited by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and I found the place filthy. So I think the programs that are happening there in terms of innovation are things that if you go there, you support them. We also don't want to have a country where the office of the president is filthy. Even when we have guests, they would wonder whether this is a serious country. I think this issue of resources being spent to innovate State House is being blown out of proportion. I think it's something that is a project which is measured, it's a project which is important, and also important for the dignity of the country. As I told you, we got to a stage we have to live within our means. So that is one of the examples to you that we are determined to ensure that we can only fund what we, using the resources we have. Well, where for necessity, for areas that are important, my committee is going to make some considerations. But all departments are complaining that the cuts have happened, and I want to say that we support the cuts as an affront to ensuring that we live within our capacity. So it's not going to be business as usual, but for strategic and important votes, like the exams, those ones we are going to consider as Budget and Appropriations Committee before we finalize our report. Yeah, thank you. For the first question is, I think the amount of money we are collecting from, the first question was on affordable housing. I think the figures are, there's no secrecy, because these are public votes, these are public resources. I can be able to avail for you the total votes, because I can easily get them from the relevant department. So there's really nothing that is being hidden about money being collected from for the affordable housing. Same as resources that are also being realized from securitization of RLMF. We have received about 60 billion so far, which has been shared out to all pending contracts at about 40% of the pending bills. That has been paid out, and the contractors agreed that after that is done, they will go back to the site, pending reception of the rest of the resources. In total, out of securitization process, we are supposed to receive about 160 billion. We are certain that 160 billion pumped into the road sector, first of all, is going to help us jumpstart the economy, and also we are going to, the court cases, the court awards that are choking us out of failure to meet the contracts terms, we are going to also save on those ones. So I think this is very progressive, and I think by end of the year, I will be able to give you more updates on how that process is going on. But we are sure that by the end of the year, half of the resources that we are expecting will have been with us, and you'll see the performance of the economy also getting a strong boost. Definitely there will be an increase, that I can promise. There will be an increase. We are engaging with all key stakeholders as we finalize the Division of Revenue Bill, which is before Senate. Even Baba, we are engaging with Baba. We have also explained to him the reality of the situation, the need for these cuts, because if the national government is going to experience those cuts, the cuts must also affect counties. So we are having widespread consultations with all stakeholders, including Baba, but I can assure you that at least there will be an addition towards that as we conclude the process of Division of Revenue Bill, the passage.
Maybe my question, we've seen that the Pending Bills Verification Committee has flagged that about 270 billion shillings worth of pending bills are ineligible. Does this mean that 270 billion shillings worth of air was supplied to government?
I think yeah, that definitely that is what that would mean, and I think that is the reason why these are pending bills from the previous regimes, and that also confirms what I have just said, that we have had serious mismanagement of the economy. Yes, so that is just a confirmation that the economy has been mismanaged in the past, and that actors who are running the economy in the past, they really have no basis of coming up and offering certain criticisms which have no basis. Because if you are the head of state in the previous regime, where pending bills accumulated in billions, in trillions, and then a committee set up, a competent committee set up by, Ouko is one of the most competent auditors that this country has had. So if Ouko says this is ineligible, I think I cannot even question it. I can really trust it. So if Ouko says it's ineligible, it means it was fraudulent, it was fraud. So this also goes to say that, we have had fraudulent people in government that have really no basis to come and now tell us, or to, question, challenge whatever is happening now. I want to agree with you, Leto, that, it means that people have been, doing this. In the counties also, by the way. I know some counties where, the only thing people do is just process documents. You move document from this office, this office, this office, you get signatures, then the money is released without a single, work on the ground. So I think this is something that we have to be very careful about as Kenyans. And we want to have, that's why we are saying we want to have a transparent budget process, so that, the programs that are being implemented are public programs. So that if you are doing a particular project in your area, the people there know that project is being done, and they will be able to supervise it themselves. So I think going forward, I think these are some of the lessons we are experiencing as people now who are, and also as part of budget implementation. One thing that I wanted to add is that in the past, this committee has not been engaged thoroughly in budget implementation. One of the things we've done, and you have said you're going to do, is that we are going to ensure that every resources we allocate, we follow up and ensure that the programs are being implemented on the ground, to tame this issue of payment of hair and misuse of public resources. No budget cuts does not mean that the items that were in the budget were not needed. Those items were still very important, but they were not as a necessity as the rest. That's why they have been removed. So we are just saying, we wanted to, take your staff for training for a particular course, and we are telling you, please don't do that course. We can do without it. It will not affect the performance of staff, for example. If Parliament wanted to take their staff for training, let's say in Mombasa, then we can simply cut that course so that vote is deleted. It does not mean that those items are not needed. And that is now the work of, that's the work of now Parliament. Once we put those ceilings, then we have to abide by those ceilings. So the program, zero-based program is actually what is happening. But of course, when you want to meet certain deficits, when you have to get a particular deficit, then you have to decide which ones are more important, which ones are more necessary, and then the others you delete.